Hello, everyone. I want to take you on a little journey today, far away from busy cities and noisy streets, to a place that feels almost like stepping into a fairy tale, the remote villages of Maramureș in Transylvania. Life there is simple, quiet, and deeply connected to nature. Imagine waking up to the sound of roosters, not alarms. In these villages, people still keep animals like cows, sheep, and chickens, and they grow their own food. Fresh bread is baked in wood, fired ovens, and meals are made with what the land gives. Nothing feels rushed. The houses are wooden, often decorated with carved gates that tell stories of family and tradition. Neighbors know each other by name, and people share what they have. If someone bakes too much bread, they carry some to the next house. If a fence breaks, it's common for neighbors to come and fix it together. It feels like one big extended family. Old traditions are alive too. Women still wear handmade clothes embroidered with bright patterns, and during festivals, the whole village dresses in traditional costumes. There is music, dancing, and laughter, things passed down from grandparents to grandchildren. Even though life might look simple from the outside, it's not always easy. Winters are long and cold, and work in the fields is hard. But there's a special kind of happiness there, one that comes from living close to the land, close to community, and close to history. When I think of Maramureș villages, I think of wooden churches rising over green hills, children running barefoot through meadows, and the smell of fresh hay in the summer sun. It's a life that teaches us something very important. Happiness doesn't always come from having more, but from cherishing what is already around us. Thank you. Life in the remote villages of Maramureș in Transylvania is built around simplicity and a deep connection with nature, a rhythm that feels very different from modern cities. Every day begins with the rising sun, and instead of being woken by traffic or alarms, the sound of roosters, barking dogs, or the lowing of cows signals the start of another day. People here live with the land and depend on it in ways that many of us have almost forgotten. Families often grow their own vegetables, tending gardens filled with beans, potatoes, onions, and cabbages. And they also keep small orchards where apples, plums, and pears ripen through the seasons. The food on the table usually comes straight from these gardens and orchards, so meals are not just fresh but also connected to the hard work of the household. Caring for animals is another essential part of everyday life. Most homes keep chickens that provide eggs, and many families have a cow or two for milk, which is used to make butter, cheese, and cream. Sheep are also common, giving wool and milk that can be turned into traditional cheeses. Watching over these animals is not only necessary for survival, but it also shapes the entire rhythm of the year. In summer, people cut and stack hay in the fields to feed animals through the long winters, and in spring, new life fills the barns with calves, lambs, and chicks. Nothing is wasted, and every part of the cycle feels tied to the land, the animals, and the weather. This closeness to nature also means that life is slower but more demanding. Villagers pay attention to the seasons in ways that city people rarely do. Planting and harvesting must be timed carefully, and weather can change plans in an instant. When it rains too much, it can damage crops or make haying difficult. When snow comes early, people must be ready with firewood stacked high and food preserved for the cold months ahead. Instead of supermarkets and online orders, families prepare for winter by storing potatoes in cellars, drying beans, pickling cucumbers, and making jars of jam or compote from fruits. This careful preparation is a tradition passed down through generations, ensuring that the family can stay nourished when the land is frozen and fields are quiet. Cooking in these households is not only about feeding, but also about honoring the land. Bread is often baked in wood, fired ovens, filling the air with the smell of warm dough and smoke from the fire. Many families still make their own soups, stews, and polenta using recipes that have not changed for centuries. The ingredients are simple, but the taste is rich, reflecting the freshness of the garden and the dedication of those who grew it. Meals often bring the whole family together, with several generations sitting around the same table, sharing food that everyone contributed to in some way. Daily life also includes working with natural materials in ways that connect people to their environment. Men cut wood from the forests, not only for heating, but also for building and repairing barns, fences, and houses. The houses themselves, made of carved wood and stone, seem like an extension of the surrounding hills and forests. Women spin wool into thread or weave fabric, creating clothing and blankets that keep the family warm. These activities are not done out of nostalgia, but because they are still useful, practical, and meaningful in villages where self-reliance is necessary. Children grow up surrounded by this lifestyle, learning early how to milk cows, gather eggs, or help in the field. Their games often happen outdoors in meadows, forests, and riversides, rather than inside with screens. They run barefoot in the summer, climb haystacks, and explore nature as their playground. This constant exposure to the natural world shapes them with a deep respect for the land and a sense of belonging to a community that depends on it. Elders, too, play an important role, passing down wisdom about when to plant, how to cure illnesses with herbs, and how to respect the cycles of life. Living close to nature in Maramureș also means facing challenges head-on. There are no shortcuts when the cow must be milked before sunrise, or when heavy snow blocks the road to the next village. Yet these difficulties create resilience and independence. People know how to solve problems using what they have at hand, and they understand that comfort often comes from hard work. Firewood does not magically appear by the stove. It must be chopped, carried, and stacked. Food does not arrive packaged in plastic. It must be grown, harvested, stored, and prepared. This way of life is not about abundance in the modern sense, but about balance and sustainability. People take from nature what they need but also respect its limits. Forests are walked through carefully, fields are tilled with attention, and water from streams and wells is valued as a gift. This respect for the land has allowed communities to survive in these remote valleys for centuries, and it still shapes how people live today. The wooden houses of Maramureș villages stand as some of the most unique and recognizable features of the region, blending beauty, tradition, and practicality in a way that feels timeless. Built from local oak and fir trees, these homes are not only shelters but also expressions of artistry, heritage, and family pride. Wood is the heart of the architecture, carved, shaped, and fitted together with remarkable skill, often without the use of nails, relying instead on old joinery methods that have been perfected through generations. The houses are typically modest in size, yet every detail reflects the care of the people who built them. Their shingled roofs slope steeply to let heavy snow slide off in winter, while the thick wooden walls keep the interiors warm in the cold months and cool during the summer heat. These structures are meant to last for centuries, and many of them already have, silently carrying the stories of countless families who lived under their roofs. Perhaps the most striking elements are the carved wooden gates, which stand at the entrance of almost every traditional household in Maramureș. These gates are tall and imposing, often large enough to allow a cart and horses to pass through, but their size is softened by the intricate carvings that cover them from top to bottom. Each carving has a meaning, turning the gate into a kind of storytelling canvas. Spirals, stars, suns, and rope motifs are among the most common symbols, representing concepts like eternity, protection, and the cycle of life. Some gates feature crosses or tree-like patterns, blending Christian symbols with older, pre-Christian motifs tied to nature and fertility. These carvings are not random decorations, they are messages left by the craftsmen and the families who commissioned them, carrying wishes for prosperity, strength, and harmony within the home. The tradition of wooden carving is considered a sacred art in these villages. Skilled craftsmen, known locally as mitri populari, spend months or even years perfecting a single gate, pouring not only their skill but also their spirit into every detail. The tools used are simple chisels and knives, yet the precision and depth of the carvings make the wood appear almost alive. The gates are often passed down through generations, and they mark more than just property boundaries. They symbolize dignity, stability, and the cultural identity of the family. To walk through such a gate is not just to enter a household, but to step into a heritage that connects past and present. The houses themselves are often built on stone foundations, which protect the wooden beams from damp soil. Above these sturdy bases rise walls of timber, either stacked horizontally as logs or cut into planks, fitted so tightly that the gaps are barely visible. Some homes are adorned with carved balconies, porches, and window frames, where the same symbols found on the gates reappear, tying the house into a unified piece of art. Many of these decorations are not just ornamental, but also carry protective meanings, as villagers believed that certain motifs could guard against misfortune or bring blessings to the family. These carved details are never rushed, and each stroke of the tool carries intention. The interiors of these homes mirror the simplicity and resourcefulness of village life. Wooden beams line the ceilings, while floors are made of thick planks polished smooth by decades of use. Furniture, too, is crafted from local wood, often decorated with subtle carvings or painted with bright traditional colors. Beds are piled high with hand-woven blankets, and icons painted on wood or glass often hang on the walls, reminding the family of their faith and heritage. The hearth is usually the center of the home, not only as a source of warmth and cooking, but also as a gathering place where stories are told and traditions are shared. This combination of practicality and artistry shows how deeply connected the people of Maramureș are to wood, treating it not as a raw material but as a living partner in their daily lives. The placement of the houses and gates within the village also reflects the communal way of life. Houses are built close enough to create a sense of togetherness, but still surrounded by gardens, orchards, or small pastures for animals. The gate acts as both a barrier and a welcome, marking the threshold between public and private space. When visitors arrive, entering through the gate feels ceremonial, as if they are being invited not only into a yard, but into a family's traditions and values. In festivals or important gatherings, these gates and houses become backdrops for colorful processions, music, and dances, adding to the sense that they are not static objects, but living participants in the life of the community. Some of the oldest wooden houses and gates in Maramureș are now protected as heritage sites, but many families still live in them as their everyday homes. Walking through a village, one can see the continuity of tradition. Newly built houses often follow the same principles, using local wood and carving familiar motifs, keeping the lineage alive. Even though modern materials are available, many families choose to honor the ways of their ancestors, not only for practical reasons but also to maintain a connection with the identity of their land. This dedication to preserving wooden architecture has made Maramureș famous worldwide, as few places hold on so firmly to their building traditions. Community life in the remote villages of Maramureș is one of the strongest elements that define how people live and how they survive in such isolated places, unlike in modern cities where neighbors may barely know each other. In these villages, everyone is familiar with one another, and daily life is deeply woven together through relationships of trust, mutual aid, and tradition. Villagers often describe themselves as belonging to one large extended family, and this sense of unity is visible in the way people share responsibilities, celebrate together, and face difficulties as a group rather than as individuals. Living in a countryside where winters can be harsh, roads can be blocked, and resources are limited, this reliance on each other is not just cultural but also practical, a key to survival that has been passed down for generations. Work in the countryside is demanding, and most tasks cannot be completed alone. During the summer haymaking season, families often join forces to mow, rake, and stack hay. It is common to see neighbors arriving early in the morning with scythes, rakes, or horse-drawn carts to help, even if the field is not theirs. The understanding is that when their own turn comes, the favor will be returned. This exchange of labor, known in many villages as klaka, ensures that no family is left behind, especially the elderly or those with smaller households who cannot manage the heavy work by themselves. The rhythm of these shared tasks not only makes the workload lighter, but also fills the fields with conversations, laughter, and sometimes even singing, transforming work into a social event. When it comes to building or repairing houses, the same principle applies. A new roof, a fence, or a barn is never a one-person job. Neighbors come together with tools, ladders, and even horses to carry wood, lift beams, or repair broken walls. The workday often ends with a shared meal prepared by the family being helped, where everyone sits around long tables, eating hearty food and drinking home-made plum brandy, called horinka, while telling stories and strengthening friendships. This cycle of giving and receiving is an unwritten rule, respected by all, and it creates a deep sense of security, knowing that in times of need, there will always be helping hands ready. The support within the community is not limited to physical work, but extends into social and emotional areas of life. When someone falls ill, neighbors check in daily, bringing food, offering to take care of animals, or gathering herbs from the forest to prepare traditional remedies. Births, weddings, and funerals are community events where attendance is not optional but expected, showing solidarity and respect. A wedding, for example, involves not only the bride and groom's families, but also the entire village, with neighbors contributing food, music, or handmade gifts. Similarly, funerals gather everyone together as people join in mourning, offering both material help and emotional comfort. In this way, life's most important moments are never experienced in isolation, but as shared experiences that reinforce the bonds of the village. Children grow up immersed in this communal lifestyle. From an early age, they play together in meadows or along streams, learning the values of cooperation and responsibility through games and shared chores. Elders play a central role, teaching stories, songs, and customs that keep the traditions alive. Respect for the elderly is strong, and their advice is sought on matters both big and small. In return, the community ensures that the elderly are never left alone, often checking on them daily, chopping their wood, or delivering fresh milk and bread. This creates a cycle of care where each generation supports the others, building a social fabric that is tightly bound. Festivals and religious celebrations also highlight the importance of community in Maramureș villages. During Easter, Christmas, or harvest festivals, the whole village gathers, often in traditional costumes, to attend church services, share meals, and join in singing and dancing. These moments are not just about religious faith, but also about reinforcing unity and celebrating the shared identity of the community. Songs are sung in groups, dances involve long chains of people holding hands, and food is prepared collectively, turning private resources into public joy. In such moments, the sense of belonging becomes almost tangible, reminding everyone of their place in the wider circle of village life. Even in everyday situations, the habit of looking after one another is visible. Passing through a village, one can see neighbors stopping to talk over fences, exchanging news, or offering help. A visitor might notice someone carrying a basket of apples to a neighbor's house, or children delivering a jar of milk from one family to another. Hospitality is natural and generous, and strangers are often welcomed as warmly as locals, given food and a place to rest without hesitation. This openness reflects the deeper values of trust and kindness that are central to life in these villages. The challenges of isolation, long winters, and heavy agricultural work could easily make life difficult, but the community network turns these obstacles into opportunities for cooperation and shared strength. It is not wealth or modern convenience that ensures the well-being of villagers, but rather this strong web of mutual aid, respect, and collective responsibility that keeps the countryside alive and resilient. Traditions in the Maramureș countryside are not relics of the past but living practices that shape the rhythm of daily life and mark the passage of time. The people in these villages hold on to customs that have been preserved for centuries, weaving them into every season, every celebration, and every stage of life. What makes these traditions so striking is their vibrancy and authenticity. They are not performed just for show, but are truly felt and lived by the community. Festivals, holidays, and family ceremonies are moments when the village comes alive with color, music, and a sense of togetherness, and they remain essential in keeping identity strong in an ever-changing world. Clothing is one of the most visible expressions of tradition. Women still wear blouses embroidered with delicate patterns, skirts layered with bright fabrics, and headscarves decorated with flowers or geometric designs. Men often wear white linen shirts with wide sleeves, vests embroidered with red or black motifs, and hats that can be decorated with ribbons or feathers during festive days. These garments are not everyday wear anymore, but are carefully preserved and proudly taken out for special occasions. Each pattern and color often tells a story about the region or even the family, and because they are handmade, they carry the touch of those who created them. Seeing an entire village dressed in traditional costumes during a festival creates an atmosphere that feels timeless, connecting the present moment with generations long gone. Music and dance are equally central to these traditions. The sound of fiddles, flutes, and drums echoes through the villages during celebrations, creating rhythms that people have known since childhood. Dancing is not an activity for a select few, but something that involves everyone, from the youngest children to the oldest grandparents. The dances are energetic, often performed in circles or lines, with intricate steps and lively movements that reflect both joy and unity. Singing, too, plays an important role with ballads that tell stories of love, work, and faith, passed down orally across centuries. These songs are more than entertainment. They are a way of remembering history and keeping memories alive in a form that the entire community can participate in. Religious traditions hold a central place in the life of Maramureș villages. The wooden churches, with their tall spires and beautifully painted interiors, are not only architectural treasures, but also gathering points for the community. On Sundays and feast days, families walk together to church, often dressed in their finest clothes, filling the air with the murmur of prayers and the scent of incense. Major religious holidays like Easter and Christmas are celebrated with rituals that mix faith and folklore. At Easter, eggs are dyed in red and other colors, often with intricate patterns created by pressing leaves or flowers against the shells before boiling. On Christmas Eve, groups of children and young people go from house to house singing carols, receiving treats in return. These customs are moments of joy but also of unity, strengthening bonds within families and across the whole village. Seasonal festivals reflect the agricultural cycle that governs life in the countryside. Harvest time is marked with gatherings where people celebrate the fruits of their labor, sharing food, music, and dances that last late into the night. In winter, traditions include processions with masks and costumes that symbolize animals, spirits, or mythical figures, bringing both laughter and a sense of continuity with ancient customs. Spring festivals often involve blessings of fields and animals, asking for fertility, good weather, and abundance in the coming year. Each season carries its own rituals, ensuring that life is not only about work, but also about gratitude and celebration. Family milestones are also surrounded by tradition. Weddings are especially rich in custom, often lasting several days. They begin with symbolic gestures such as the bride being stolen by her friends and continue with processions of musicians, dances, and banquets where the entire community participates. Traditional songs are sung to bless the couple, and special foods are prepared in huge quantities to feed everyone who attends. Funerals, though somber, also involve communal rituals that reflect respect and the cycle of life, with neighbors and friends supporting the grieving family through shared prayers, songs, and gatherings. Food plays a significant role in these festivals and traditions. Certain dishes are always present during celebrations: thick soups, roasted meats, cabbage rolls, and sweet pastries filled with nuts or poppy seeds. Drinks like horinka, the strong plum brandy, are served generously, symbolizing hospitality and warmth. Preparing these foods is a communal act, often involving several families who work together in large kitchens or outdoor spaces. The act of cooking and sharing food is itself a tradition that ties people closer together, ensuring that no celebration is complete without generosity and abundance. What stands out most in the preservation of these traditions is the way they are passed from one generation to another. Children are included in festivals from the time they are small, learning songs, dances, and rituals, not in formal lessons, but by participating alongside their parents and grandparents. The pride in wearing traditional clothes, the excitement of learning a dance step, or the joy of joining a carol group creates memories that they carry forward, ensuring that customs are not forgotten. Elders are the keepers of these traditions, but their role is not to guard them silently. They actively teach, explain, and encourage younger people to carry the torch forward. In Maramureș, traditions and festivals are not occasional spectacles, but essential parts of life. They provide rhythm to the year, meaning to work, and identity to the community. They ensure that no one feels isolated because each person has a role to play, whether it is singing, cooking, dancing, or simply participating. Through these customs, the people of Maramureș preserve not only their culture but also their sense of belonging, making life in the countryside rich in meaning and color. Life in the remote countryside of Maramureș is often described as hard, shaped by the demands of the land and the rhythm of seasons, yet within this effort lies a kind of joy and fulfillment that does not depend on material wealth or modern comforts. People here find meaning in the simplicity of their routines, the closeness of their families, and the beauty of the natural world that surrounds them. The days are long, filled with physical labor in the fields, tending to animals and preparing food. But these activities carry a sense of purpose that gives them value beyond the work itself. Even the most ordinary tasks, such as gathering firewood, milking cows, or cutting hay, are part of a cycle that connects individuals to the land, to their ancestors, and to one another. Seasons play an essential role in shaping life, and each brings its own challenges and rewards. Spring begins with the thawing of snow, when fields must be prepared for planting. Families work together to sow potatoes, beans, and corn, watching as the earth comes back to life. The satisfaction of seeing green shoots rise from the soil is not just about food security, but about the renewal of hope after a long winter. Summer is a time of intense labor, with haymaking, harvesting fruits, and maintaining gardens. Yet it is also filled with the warmth of long days, the laughter of children playing barefoot in meadows, and the sight of animals grazing peacefully in the fields. Autumn brings the harvest, when apples, plums, and pears are gathered, grains are stored, and families work to prepare preserves, jams, and pickles for the cold months ahead. Winter is demanding, with snow covering roads and frost biting at windows. But it is also the season of storytelling by the fire, evenings of weaving or carving, and festive gatherings that brighten the darkest days. In every season, there is both toil and joy, and it is this balance that shapes the spirit of the people. Simplicity is not about the absence of struggle, but about appreciating what is already at hand. Families cook meals from their own gardens and orchards, baking bread in wood, fired ovens, making cheese from fresh milk, and preparing soups rich with vegetables they grew themselves. These foods may not seem extraordinary to outsiders, but to the villagers, they taste of their own effort, their own soil, and their own tradition. Eating together is an everyday act of gratitude, a reminder that the land provides what is needed when cared for with patience and respect. The same attitude extends to clothing, tools, and even homes, many of which are made or maintained by the families themselves, giving each item a personal history and deeper meaning. Joy also comes from the small moments of beauty and connection that arise naturally in village life. The sound of church bells echoing through valleys on a Sunday morning, the laughter of children chasing one another through orchards, the sight of freshly washed clothes fluttering in the breeze, or the smell of hay drying in the sun, all carry a kind of happiness that is difficult to measure, easy to feel. People pause to greet one another on the road, share a piece of bread or a cup of horenka with visitors, and tell stories that make even the hardest day lighter. These moments might seem insignificant to someone accustomed to modern conveniences, but they are the essence of what makes life meaningful here. The hard work itself is also a source of pride. Cutting hay with a scythe at dawn, stacking it neatly into hayricks, or carrying baskets of fruit down steep paths requires strength and endurance. Yet the sense of accomplishment at the end of the day is deeply rewarding. The body may be tired, but the spirit is satisfied because the work was necessary and valuable. There is no distance between effort and result. The milk on the table comes from the cow milked that morning, the bread from flour ground from the village's own grains, the warmth from wood cut and stacked by the family. This closeness between labor and reward brings a clarity that many modern lives lack, creating a joy that grows out of self-reliance and tangible results. Family and community provide another layer of contentment, even in the face of hardship. Generations often live under one roof, with grandparents, parents, and children sharing the same household. Each contributes to daily life according to their ability. Elders provide wisdom and care for the youngest, while adults handle the heaviest labor, and children learn by participating. This shared effort strengthens bonds and ensures that no one feels alone in the face of difficulty. Celebrations, whether small family gatherings or large village festivals, create opportunities to pause, reflect, and enjoy the fruits of labor together, reinforcing the idea that joy does not come from possessions, but from relationships and shared experiences. Nature itself offers endless sources of happiness. The green hills, clear rivers, and deep forests surrounding the villages are not only resources but also companions. People walk through fields filled with wildflowers, pick mushrooms in shaded woods, and watch the stars on clear nights without the interference of city lights. The cycle of day and night, the songs of birds, and the rustle of leaves in the wind remind them daily of their place in the natural order. Living so close to nature teaches acceptance and humility, but it also brings a quiet kind of joy that is felt in the soul. The simplicity of Maramureș life does not mean ease, but it does mean depth. Each task, each season, and each moment carries meaning, and this meaning transforms hard work into something more than duty. It becomes a way of life that values connection over consumption, patience over speed, and tradition over constant change. In this way, the people of these villages discover joy not despite the hardships, but through them, finding happiness in the small, honest details of everyday living.